Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 episode number 106 based on novel. So let's start. Impressive. No wonder you're the strongest God King in the history of the Origin continent. You became a God King in just over 200 years, and now you've even achieved the second level of the God King realm, the ruler of the U Kingdom exclaimed. In the Origin continent, there are many who are stronger than me, Luo Feng replied with a smile, also acknowledging that he was at the second level of the God King realm. The indestructible light of the Chaos Void, and the Great Annihilation technique he comprehended, as well as the various second-level secret techniques he would comprehend in the future. Mastering these powerful secret techniques and still claiming to be at the first level of the God King realm, who would believe that? Luo Feng deliberately used lower realm techniques to create higher realm secret techniques to hone his own comprehension. In fact, in terms of accumulation, the path of life and destruction, as long as one pursues them deliberately, can quickly reach the second level of the God King realm. Assuming oneself to be at the second level of the God King realm makes one's strength seem more normal. With your talent, Luo He, you are fully capable of aiming for the ultimate realm, the ruler of the U Kingdom said. The ultimate realm is much harder than the second level of the Divine King realm, Luo Feng said. Many people on the Origin continent have comprehended the secret techniques of the ultimate realm, even emperors and monarchs can achieve it, and those at the level of Emperor Guishu can do it too. But in this era, only the Lord of all realms and Emperor Qing have attained the ultimate realm. Yeah, it's too difficult, the ruler of the U Kingdom sighed. He hadn't even comprehended a single ultimate level secret technique. The news that Luo Feng defeated a second-level God King with a single, indestructible light of chaos quickly spread, and there were even detailed battle images. This Luo River didn't even showcase his physical strength but merely released a sword light to defeat an ordinary second-level God King. The ruler of the Sky Kuan Kingdom in the Shi Kingdom also paid close attention to this information, carefully watching the battle footage. This sword light is not a weapon or treasure but a condensation of power. It possesses such terrifying might. It has terrifying aspects like everything be cut, no escape, eternal energy, and many others. The ruler of the Sky Kuan Kingdom had a high level of cultivation and could discern many of the terrifying aspects of this sword light. This sword light has an extremely high level of cultivation. I can't even perform such a delicate move. The ruler of the Sky Kuan Kingdom felt a mix of emotions as he watched. Even with the full power of the Hunyuan bloodline, it would probably be no different from this sword light. This is the unparalleled talent? The Lord of Qianquan, a dominant ruler in his own right, also felt a sense of helplessness when facing Luo He. Last time, Luo Feng's moves were still quite clumsy, relying solely on his numerous clones and his physical strength to entangle his enemies. In just over 200 years, the realm that was once his weakest point had already surpassed the Lord of Qianquan. I'll have to be more cautious around him in the future, the Lord of Qianquan thought to himself. Even if Luo Feng's realm is high enough, he masters the secret method of the ultimate realm, and is comparable to the Guishu Emperor and the Wuxin Divine King, so what? Even at the Emperor level, they dare not say that they can destroy the leader of the Qianquan Kingdom with one move, leaving the leader of the Qianquan Kingdom with no time to reincarnate. The Hunyuan bloodline of King Qianquan is also extremely tenacious. The figure under the endless flames was none other than the first emperor of Yangfeng Ancient Kingdom, Dian. Luo He has become the second level of the God King? Di Yang nodded slightly. The level has been greatly improved, and he is also good at clones. He is of great use to our Yangfeng Ancient country, and he can handle many hard and tiring tasks. Among the Kaqing God Kings, Luo Feng is considered to be powerful, and he has many clones. One can stand up to a group of royals and God Kings. The only obstacle lies in his master, Dichu. Di Yang frowned. He believed that on the one hand, the emperors were intimidated by their strength, and on the other hand, they were given credit and resources, so Luo Feng would obediently bow his head and work hard without complaining. But with Dichu here, Dichu would definitely protect the interests of his disciples. Showed some strength this time and caused some disturbance, but Luo Feng was still strolling around leisurely. Although the large cities in the Food Kingdom are prosperous, the wilderness outside the city is much more barbaric and cruel. Luo Feng frowned slightly and watched a warship flying towards a tribe in the distance. There are only a few thousand living beings in that tribe. On the warship was an elite team, consisting of 10 true gods of the void and 100 true gods. At this moment, the leading true god of the void used a secret treasure, and a huge bag appeared, intending to completely engulf the entire tribe. Not good. Run away. There was panic in the tribe. The team on the warship was very casual. They had long been accustomed to such tasks. Enough creatures must be caught every period of time, and these must be sacrificed. Once the number is insufficient, they will have to sacrifice their lives to make up for it. Get away. With a shout, the warship was moved hundreds of millions of kilometers away in an instant, but this tribe managed to survive. Thousands of creatures in the tribe stared at this scene blankly. The huge bags and warships that were originally high in the sky all disappeared. Go quickly. This place has been discovered. We must hide deeper in the mountains. Hurry up and move quickly. The tribe quickly took action. Simply carrying important items, the entire tribe took a flying boat and quietly headed toward more remote areas. Place to migrate. Luo Feng watched the migration of the entire tribe from a distance. This is the Food Kingdom. It is good at delicious food, but it can also devour countless creatures. Luo Feng shook his head slightly. When he annexed the 10 chaotic states of the Food Kingdom, he discovered that the wilderness tribes in those 10 chaotic states all lived in extremely remote places. That day, Lord Kuan of the kingdom wanted to devour countless living beings for a long time. This was also the reason why the Food Kingdom invaded the surrounding areas and used cruel methods. In fact, with the power of the Food Kingdom, annexing some third-rate countries and forcing them with strength, the third-rate countries generally would not dare to resist. Through normal negotiation and coercion, annexation can be easily achieved. This is also how many second-rate countries expand their territories. However, the Food Kingdom likes bloody killings. When it annexes a country, the country's royal capital will usually be completely devoured, leaving no ordinary citizens behind. As for the wilderness tribes, they captured and devoured them on a large scale. The Lord of Qianquan protects the prosperity of large cities and maintains the sustainability of wilderness tribes. He only arrests part of it regularly. Only when he annexes other countries is the time for him to have a big meal. This is the case in the origin continent. It's nothing. Luo Feng sighed. There are many more cruel and heinous people in the origin continent than Lord Qianquan. Occupying a huge territory, countless creatures in the entire territory will be devoured, and all creatures will never succeed. In comparison, the mysterious force that previously enslaved and controlled Shui Feng Yu only enslaved a very small number of geniuses. In the origin continent, when it comes to sins, they are not ranked at all. Luo Feng walked everywhere. There were second-rate countries one after another, many third-rate countries, and Luo Feng even went to Qianwu Kingdom and Wanjie Kingdom, passed through many surrounding small countries, and detoured through Thunder Ancient Kingdom, and finally set foot on the Qinji ice field from the border of Thunder Ancient Kingdom. Luo Feng has traveled all over the origin continent except the most remote East Pole region. During this process, Luo Feng also accepted some named disciples one after another. Tilde. The wind and snow howled. The Qinji ice field becomes colder as you go deeper, and ordinary tribes cannot survive in most places in the wild. Countless creatures then built cities one after another. Luo Feng walked alone in the snow. Huh? Luo Feng's ears twitched. He heard the sound of melodious music. Good music. Luo Feng's eyes lit up. He traveled to most parts of the origin continent and heard too many pieces of music, and fewer of them could make his heart beat. Luo Feng took a quick look and saw a lonely city covered in ice in the distance. On top of the city was a figure holding a leaf and playing music alone. The sound of the music spread throughout the city. The lonely sound of playing warms the soul. Luo Feng saw the days when he and his wife Shuxin were in school, and also saw the scenes of playing with his sons Luo Ping and Luo Hai. Luo Feng was naturally immersed in the beautiful memories. And Fengya, have you finished playing? After you finish playing, I will take action. An elite army was also not far from the city. The leading general spoke only after the sound of playing stopped. The young man in white clothes on the top of the city said with a smile, "General Seiyun, can you let me finish playing this newly created tune?" And Fengya, "It's my responsibility." That General Yun said, Do you want me to take action?" "Please," the young man in white said with a smile. I saw that elite legion instantly turned into a black alien beast, and the huge black alien beast killed the young man in white. The young man in white turned over his hand and took out an oval musical instrument and started playing it. This time the sound of the music turned into many illusions, pulling the black beast. However, this black beast, with its spiritual power united, is not afraid at all. After all, the strength is not enough. The young man in white sighed, and the huge claws of the black beast were already shrouded. "Little guy, the music is good." A voice sounded. The young man in white looked over in shock. A man in black was sitting at the top of the city, holding a wine flask in his hand, drinking wine and looking at the young man in white with a smile. The surrounding world became quiet, and the huge black beast also stood motionless in mid-air. "And Fengya has met the Lord." The young man in white saluted immediately. "And Fengya?" Luo Feng nodded slightly and contacted the Yangfeng Guild Hall to get all the detailed information about An Fengya. An Fengya likes music and wanders in many cities. Luo Feng looked at him. Because he saw that hundreds of millions of creatures in a small city were about to be devoured, he took action to hurt the son of God King Juye and save the people of the city. In front of him. "This legion that is chasing you is the elite of King Juye?" "Yes." And Fengya responded respectfully. This superior understood everything completely. "You clearly know that he is the son of God King Juye, why do you still take action?" Luo Feng asked. "My life is worth taking in exchange for hundreds of millions of lives." And Fengya said with a smile, "After I took action, those hundreds of millions of lives immediately dispersed and fled. I believe that most of them can survive. You are willing to use to exchange his life for the lives of hundreds of millions of unfamiliar creatures?" Luo Feng was surprised. Luo Feng thought that he couldn't do it. He is willing to sacrifice for his hometown tribe, but he cannot sacrifice for strange creatures. They are all the essence of heaven and earth, and they are the most brilliant life. And Fengya said with a smile, but his smile was extremely contagious. Luo Feng could feel that what An Fengya said came from his heart. Perhaps it is because of a heart that loves all things and loves all life devoutly that he created such a song. There are 19 registered disciples under my sect now. Are you willing to be the 20th? Luo Feng looked at him. Because of his love for music and food, most of the registered disciples that Luo Feng took during his tour of Origin Continent were good at music. There are 2 others who specialize in gourmet food. And Fengya was startled and couldn't help but said, "Your Majesty, I have offended the son of God King Juye. From today on, there will be no God King Juye in the Origin Continent." Luo Feng looked at him with a smile. An ordinary God King in the first level brings disaster to all directions. Since he has a grudge against his apprentice, he also has a karma with himself. Just solve it easily. And Fengya was startled and knelt down immediately. "Disciple and Fengya, meet the master." Ha ha ha. Luo Feng smiled and was very satisfied. At the same moment, a clone of Luo Feng had crossed the void and found the Juye Divine King. In a towering palace, in a quiet room. The Juye God King revealed his true form, a huge bird. The feathers on his body were filled with thick ink-like mist, there was a touch of blood red on his head, and his cold eyes seemed to be half closed. He was born in a primitive universe and came to the Origin Continent through the reincarnation channel. He was a special life in the primitive universe, born as a ferocious bird. He liked to devour living beings. He was a nightmare in that primitive universe. He destroyed one tribe after another. In the end, he became the most terrifying existence in the surrounding territory of that primitive universe. All living beings in the primitive universe were devoured. After he broke through the reincarnation, the new creatures in that area had a respite. But his strength has been increasing since he came to the origin continent, and later he also controlled the primitive universe of his hometown. His incarnation of divine power devoured living beings at will. I'm still not strong enough in the origin continent, so I have to endure it. The God King Juye was born to like to devour living creatures, but now he can only whet his appetite a little in his own territory. The children he raised in the origin continent have extraordinary blood, are born strong, and most of them also like to devour living creatures. When can I be truly invincible in the origin continent? Then I can regard the entire origin continent as my hunting ground. There was expectation in the cold eyes of the God King Juye that would be the real great pleasure and great freedom. Suddenly, an invisible attack came. The God King Juye turned into nothingness silently. It was as if an eraser wiped him away. Just gone. And his weapons, secret treasures and other things fell to the side, without being affected at all. In this quiet room, Luo Feng in black appeared here. Too weak. Luo Feng shook his head gently. My great extinction style just penetrated, and he was gone. The great extinction style is a fusion of the 6 branches of the great way of life and death. It has the characteristics of curse killing and can affect all the clones of the opponent. Of course, this Juye God King has no clones. At the moment of death, his resurrection carrier was also affected. The resurrection carrier is like a drop of blood, a feather. The resistance is far less than that of the clone. Under the Great Extinction style, it is naturally annihilated instantly. Because he died too quickly, Juye God King did not have time to perform the secret art of reincarnation. You are the first God King to die under the Great Extinction style. Luo Feng was very satisfied with the power of this move. It was worthy of being a move created by taking more than 30 centuries with the reference of dream memory images. Destroy. Luo Feng's mind moved, and a wisp of black smoke instantly passed through a long distance and descended on the 7 children of Juye God King. Except for one daughter of Juye God King who hated to devour living beings and became a disciple of another God King, the other 7 children were like Juye God King, who liked to devour countless living beings for a long time. As soon as the God King Juye died, the original universe he controlled also regained its freedom. But outside the original universe, the slightly smaller huge small universe also began to collapse. The Holy Land collapsed. The ancestor died? Impossible, how could the ancestor die? Some descendants of the God King Juye in this small universe were terrified. However, the strong men in the original universe and many small universes cheered. The creatures of one reincarnation era after another lived under the shadow of the God King Juye, and even the original universe was controlled. They used to be the food on the plate of the God King Juye, allowing him to choose and eat without any resistance. Until today, the God King Juye finally died, and they finally got a great relief. Although the death of the God King Juye attracted the attention of some forces in the origin continent, all parties did not care too much. After all, these ordinary God Kings of the first level often fall. Even if they are weak and destroyed, they usually have time to reincarnate. Avoiding disasters through reincarnation is what ordinary God Kings often do. Although the God King Juye is weak, Luo Feng cannot prevent the God King Juye from reincarnating before he realizes the Great Extinction method. The power of the Chaos Whole Immortal Light cannot instantly destroy the God King Juye and the Resurrection Carrier. The God King's ultimate will combined with the element technique is not sure to completely kill the God King Juye. After all, the God King Juye came all the way from the original universe, and he is not a God King created by external forces like the Shadow Heaven realm. Tilde. After Luo Feng sent his disciple and Fengya back to Huyang City, he continued to walk on the origin continent. The Tianji ice field has a harsh environment, and the deeper you go, the colder it gets. Here, Luo Feng walked to a warm and comfortable vast territory, where there is no wind and snow, countless vegetation grows lushly, and many tribes live in the wilderness. The environment here is comfortable, and the number of practitioners has greatly increased. This is the Fire Ancestor realm. The fire ancestor has lived in the fire ancestor city for a long time and commands the surrounding extremely vast territory. This vast territory, because of his existence, it has become warm and suitable for survival. This area occupies less than 1/10 of the Tianji icefield, but more than half of the creatures in the Tianji icefield live here. There are 5 idol practitioners with the strength of the emperor in the second level of the divine king. Among them, the Queen of Fengju and the fire ancestor are both very transcendent. The reason why they are transcendent is that he does not fight. The fire ancestor lives in the remote Tianji icefield and has not joined any forces. He is almost invisible in various treasures, and his strength is extremely powerful. The 2 ancient countries also like such a strong man. He does not fight, but he protects more than half of the creatures in the Tianji icefield. Luo Feng walked along the way and saw the prosperity of the fire ancestor realm. Countless creatures here admired the fire ancestor very much. Luo Feng also saw the fire ancestor city from a distance. The fire ancestor city is like a source of warmth, running with invisible rules, which naturally affects the vast territory. Although he doesn't fight, he protects countless lives to the best of his ability. I admire him. Luo Feng also felt respect. There are very few strong people in the origin continent that he admires, and Fire Ancestor is one of them. Luo Feng continued to walk. Luo He? In the Fire Ancestor city, a red-haired figure in simple clothes looked at Luo Feng from a distance and smiled. Origin continent is going to have another powerful existence. As long as he came to the Fire Ancestor realm, Fire Ancestor could sense it. Fire Ancestor then closed his eyes, and his mind and the countless flames between heaven and earth seemed to be one. Some of these countless flames were cooking food, some were refining pills, and some were refining tools. His mind was one with these flames. Luo Feng also came to the East Extreme region, which is the most remote and desolate place in the origin continent. The ancestor of the East Extreme region protected this place, and the Queen of Fengju also came from here. Luo Feng walked in this vast territory. The power of heaven and earth here was much thinner, and the treasures of heaven and earth were also rare. But the environment here is comfortable, and all kinds of fruits and vegetables are very common. These indigenous creatures are all relatively large and sturdy. They don't use exquisite weapons and secret treasures, but use stone sticks, wooden sticks and other objects as weapons at will. They also eat ordinary fruits and vegetables. They worship heaven and earth. Many indigenous creatures are feeling and understanding heaven and earth. Once they fight, they are also cruel and crazy. Indigenous creatures don't care about external things, but seek inner things. But they also breed many God-King level beings, and even exist at the level of the Queen of Fengju. Who can say that their path is wrong? Luo Feng understands their path. Abandon all external things, focus on yourself, and focus on the Tao. This is the path of indigenous creatures. Luo Feng walked to the end of the origin continent and looked ahead. It was an endless sea of the universe. Chaotic airflow was surging, dark, and there was no end in sight. Whether it is the original universe or the origin continent, this world is very exciting. Luo Feng sat cross-legged at the end of the continent, looking at the sea of the universe, but many of the ancient gods regard countless creatures as the nourishment of cultivation. They are all very wise and have seen through some of the mysteries of the operation of the avenue. But they don't care about the joys and sorrows of ordinary creatures. What they care about is their own strength. Can they become the ultimate realm? Can they transcend the source world? So those ancient beings calculated carefully one by one. Perhaps this is part of the rules of the operation of heaven and earth. Luo Feng also understood this. The operation of heaven and earth is composed of 9 complete avenues. The law of the jungle is one of the aspects which also makes countless creatures compete and strive. Emotional resonance. This is the characteristic of creatures. Luo Feng also understands that he pities the weak. It is the pity aspect of his emotions. The operation between heaven and earth, the law of the jungle, emotions, order, destruction and cleansing, hope, all aspects are intertwined to promote the operation of the world. Everything has its own way and destiny. However, I have my way. A cultivator can defeat the world with his own strength. Use his own way to surpass the way of heaven and earth and completely transcend the source world. Luo Feng's eyes were calm. Then I can decide how everything works. The so-called order and destiny are decided by me. This is cultivation. Following the will of heaven is a mediocre person. To defeat the world with one's own strength is the pursuit of cultivators, and it is also the expectation of the supreme rule to breed countless creatures, hoping that the creatures it breeds can surpass it. Luo Feng's mind transformed again at this moment. It took more than 200 centuries to become a god king, with a strong soul foundation, dream realm cultivation, space cultivation, 5-color treasure, infinite medicine, scales of destruction and other treasures, facing the dream memory creation, mass extinction style, 7 emotions refining heart, walking on the origin continent. Slowly transformed again and again, until this moment, the quantitative change finally caused a qualitative change. Power can overcome heaven. Luo Feng's spiritual will formed a clear human figure, with the same face as Luo Feng. A clear figure enveloped Luo Feng, and his terrifying will was condensed, looking around in all directions, with terrifying power. Spiritual body? The spiritual will was so strong that it could already leave the physical body and form an illusory body. I feel that this spiritual body is stronger than my physical body. The spiritual will that surpassed the God King level was extremely powerful, and all God King wills would be suppressed or even destroyed in front of it. God King level will, to surpassing God King level will. Breaking through this bottleneck is the most difficult bottleneck on Luo Feng's spiritual will. This bottleneck also trapped many God Kings. There are only a handful of people who can do this in the origin continent. And now Luo Feng is one of them. This video will end here.